Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm your host today. I'm Iris Acker. I'd like you to meet our panel. First up, theater critic Bill Hirschman. Michael McKeever is a playwright and an actor. Shari Upton, who is a producer and a director.
Yes.
And our special guest today is Janet Erlick, who is the Executive Artistic Director of the Fort Lauderdale Children's Theatre. They've been around a long time. Let me tell you a little something about them. They're an educational center for theater, arts, serving children and families across South Florida. They're the oldest documented children's theater in the state of Florida. And I'm going to tell you their mission because I'm going to adopt it. It's so beautiful. I'm going to keep it always. They're teaching the art of life through the magic of theater. Isn't that beautiful? I'm going to say it again because I love it so much. Janet, you teach the art of life through the magic of theater. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for that. I want to have you say it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, so why is Fort Lauderdale Children's Theatre has been around so long? How is Fort Lauderdale Children's Theatre different from all the other children's theatres in South Florida?
Well, I think it's that balance, and as you so beautifully stated in our mission, it's about balancing art for art's sake with all of the magic that the arts can do in terms of building creativity, a sense of community, all of the ancillary learning and skill development. So our focus is very intentional in both of those different areas, and I think that is something that does set our programming apart.
And that's what kept you where you are today. Not necessarily because you moved.
Oh, yes.
And you're in a very lovely area right now. Let's plug it.
Oh.
Galleria, tell us about it.
We are. We actually have our East Satellite at the Galleria Mall. And after a long time being over on Andrews Avenue, we were actually the first cultural organization to purchase property in 1970. So the theater started in 1952. So we really, as you mentioned, are ancient Florida history. And now have a beautiful home at the Galleria. We also do a lot of programming out west and in different venues throughout South Florida. But that's our hub.
What kind of programming do you do? What are some of the different programs that you put
There's 3 branches. We do classes for kids 4 years old through 18 years old. Those are in acting and dance and improv and musical theater, so all of the other skills that somebody would need and want as they are developing as a young actor. We do a full season of productions. 2 are primarily for teens and actors in middle and high school. 2 are spanning a much larger spectrum age-wise, so actors 1st grade through 12th grade. Once a year, we let grown-ups come and play. So our summer show, they can come. But ordinarily, we get very spoiled because kids learn things so quickly. And when our process grinds to a halt, and we have the 6-year-olds have to go take the parents out in the back, go run there, dance with them again. They haven't quite gotten it yet. And all of my staff is like, oh, I forgot how slowly we have to move when we have adults playing with us. Because they're, you remember, they're like sponges. So
Tragically, I don't. That's a
problem. Janet, congratulations on doing such a great job.
Oh, well, thank you.
What is the difference between producing for young people than adults? Is there a difference?
I think in some ways there isn't, because it's about making wonderful art and it's about having the highest possible standards that you can. So the kind of work and the kind of process that we go through as artists who have chosen and love working with young people is really the same as any theater. And we have our artistic battles and we have all of the kinds of meetings and discussions about exactly the kind of stories that we want to tell. I think where it gets a little different is there's has to be a real connection with who you have and what their skill set is. So as a director, you might want to have these elaborate storytelling and your actors might not have those skills yet. So you have to kind of figure out where your group is and where you want to go. And sometimes that requires a little bit of adjusting. And
how do you find your actors? Say I have 3 kids. I have a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 16-year-old.
Look no farther.
There you go. This is what I'm saying. So I'm bringing to you, how does this work? Do you audition them and see what they're best at?
Classes are open to everybody. So our classes in summer camps and winter break camps and spring break camps, everybody who wants to participate comes. The productions are by audition. So they are open auditions, and so anybody who fits within the criteria age-wise is available and open to come and try out.
So you don't necessarily have to be in
No.
one of the classes to audition for the shows?
No, those are open. And it's usually a mix of, people that have never done it and people that have done it forever and people that come to us and work and people that only do shows. So each show really does get its own casting process, and we factor in a lot of things in terms of, when it's close call, if somebody has really been working and we know they're ready to move to the next level, that has to come into play too in casting.
I've seen you often have some of your costumes and some of your other production elements in the windows facing the mall, and I've always been amazed at the quality and depth and the photographs. Some companies, the Maltz Jupiter Theater has a $500,000 a year, a $500,000 a show budget. There are some other companies that have $50 a show budgets.
We are right there in the middle.
I wonder, you seem to spend a lot of time and effort on the way things look. What does a show normally cost? How many people do you employ?
That's 4 questions he just asked you,
That's
John.
right. Go ahead. Fire away, Bill.
How much does a show normally cost? And a second question, how many people are working behind the scenes?
Well, the way that our company works, we have full-time staff members. So myself as executive artistic director and Sean Cutler, who I know Sherry knows well, as producing director, we kind of oversee the artistic quality of all of the productions. In addition, we have professional adult directors and designers. So the costume designer, we have a resident team of costume designer, scenic designer, choreographers and music directors who have worked with us for many, many years. So everything else, though, is done by our students. So they're running the lights, they're running the sound, they stage manage, they do everything technical under the facilitation and direction of the adults. So we have incredible artists who can make magic out of very little. So the one answer is when you see a show, it's a lot less than it should have been that we spend. The range is huge. So it can be anywhere between $5,000 to $50,000 depending on the elements and the skills, not really factoring in much of our full-time staff time.
I find they're very
Residents of
ambitious.
Yeah.
In the Heights, for example, I mean, you're choosing your shows. They're difficult. I mean, with children, I can't
And the
get
Heights
over it.
was a beast, for sure.
I mean, the fact that, yes, they learn quickly, they pick but characterization, and there's some very
Yes.
sexy scenes
There
in some of
are.
these shows.
There are.
Well, what
And
about Starlight Express?
Yes,
I don't
we
know
did.
how you did that.
We did.
That is, to me, the most amazing project that you could do with young people.
With children.
Well,
Yeah.
Starlight Express was the first show of our current season. So we spent the summer in skating. So we had everybody could come all summer long, and that was something obviously that the skill of being able to roller skate and move around
First to
and sing and
skate.
dance at the same time.
Right.
That part needed to be gotten out of the way first. So they really worked all summer before we even did auditions, and we did had some wonderful
And you have to do
community
that.
building time.
But you
And
can.
Yeah.
Everybody came and fell for 2 months, and then they stopped falling, and then we started to work. So
And the makeup covered the black and blue
Well,
ones.
is that a reflection of your philosophy in that you're not doing the Three Little Bears visit Dorothy and Oz, that you're doing in the Heights, that you're doing Starlight Express? Can you talk a little bit about
Well,
that?
it's balancing. I mean, for many children, we're the first exposure of live theater they will ever have. So for hundreds of kids each year, their first experience is something of our work. So it's a balancing act in the season of, family classics and old favorites. And so we've done Oz, and we've done things that, would be more traditionally linked to a children's theater. But our students, some of them have been with us from when they're 4 years old, and when they hit 16 and 17, their skill set is so high and they're working at such an incredibly nuanced level that they're ready for these other
Do they work at
things.
4? Do you have plays for
Well, we
for
start at
4-year-olds?
4. That they can't do one of our main stages yet.
Shakespeare's out.
Well, no, we do Shakespeare with our teens.
What a
We did the
section.
most magnificent Hamlet that I would put against any production anywhere that our teens did. And our music director actually wrote an underscore for the majority of the show. So
Right.
each character had his or her own theme that morphed and changed as the play went on. And what was interesting
Wow.
about that production, so often we see 35-year-old men, walking around in their turmoil about indecision, and having it be a young person because he's in college. And I've never seen it done with somebody that young.
Nice.
And it was such an incredible change to the story, and it suddenly made sense in such a different way when this college kid was coming home and in this world of powerful
the same
adults.
dilemmas in his
and,
world.
what do I do? You really felt for him in a way that often you're like, just do something. I mean, I don't know what you do, but pick something when you watch an older an actor do it.
Here's a
So-
question. Talking about young people, have you found there to be more of a challenge in the times in which we live when we're dealing with social media and everyone's got a smartphone and everyone's got their face, stuck into an iPad or a tablet? Have you found that the interest in live theater is more challenged now because of all these other elements that we deal with?
I
Good
think
question.
maybe when it was first starting, that really was something that everybody was, wow, is there going to be anything left for people to sit and talk like this? Can people even do it? And I think as time has gone on with so much of their world being technological, the desire for human contact and connection and the need that we all have as social beings has brought that, helped us in a lot of ways. And having those moments where people can kind of unplug and disengage and really be present with each other is something you read in anything about health and wellness and anything about. So, everybody's saying, oh, you have to do it and go do it and go do it. And I took a vacation and there was no cell phone and my life has changed. And
Right.
so I think people are understanding that just like anything else, there
I have
has to
another
be a
quote
place
here.
to put that in a healthy life that
Right.
doesn't
Janet,
just take
this
things
quote,
over. Yes.
transforming lives through theater.
Yes, ma'am.
So what you just said about wellness and all,
Yes.
I mean, that's really what you're doing, whether they like it or not.
Oh, well, they love it, so that part is easy. But, it really is about transformation, and it's about teaching all of those things that only theater can do. I mean, you look at something like empathy, and you look at a skill like working with people of difference and all of the bullying and all of the terrible violence that's happening in our culture and how really sick our world is and the kind of healing that needs to happen. And for us, that's what theater does.
Do you write original plays for
We
the
do
children?
sometimes.
With
we
any
do.
social issues?
It takes, the issues. If you're going to do a piece like that, that's a long process to do it well and do it right and do it justice. So when we put something like that into our season, it's going to be a very long-term process. We did, as Iris mentioned, In the Heights, and for that show, we brought in a lot of guest speakers. So the students talked to, many of them from their own family, who had immigration stories about their own life experience coming to this country. We had people who were dealing with undocumented workers, including some of their peers that came and spoke about their family struggles. We learned about each group had to do a group project on something that was interesting to them within the show. So they learned about the Bay of Pigs, and we learned about the Cuban Missile Crisis and the crisis in Venezuela.
Wow.
So all of those kinds of things, it let us jump off from the text, and it gave an understanding about what it means to tell somebody's story. And that is true of any piece of theatrical literature that you work with. So we always have a lot of supplemental activities and that kind of learning and transformation to when somebody steps on stage and is playing a character. that means something in terms of what that is and
So
what
they
that
have an
relationship
idea of what they're
is.
doing and what they're playing.
So it's a
Exactly.
school. All you need to do is just add math, and you can.
Yeah, well, there, you know, you try to build a set like we built in the Heights, and there's a lot of math in there too.
You know, Bill is a theater critic. Could you actually criticize, could you review a children's theater production
wouldn't we
performed by
love that?
children? You don't want.
I
I'm just
do
saying,
want that.
I'm interested to know how you would look at theater performed by children in adult roles. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think the Florida Theater on Stage, we only review professional productions. But in my lifetime, I've certainly reviewed everything, high school, children's theater, you name it. And I think a lot of it has to do with, first of all, setting your expectations where they should be. And not lowering them, but realizing that some people's skill sets are developed to a certain degree or not developed to a certain degree. It's the same when you're reviewing, and again, we don't, community theater. You have to bring a different set of, I'm not looking for what Laurence Olivier can do, I'm looking for what these people are able to do. And a lot of it also is for what the audience is looking for. It isn't so much how is it achieving what you wanted it to for the people who are coming to it? What are they looking for? So yes, it can be done. It is difficult.
It's a great question, but do you get reviews?
No, I mean, as he mentioned,
I was wondering, I was thinking
Florida
of the young
world,
people.
and it is challenging sometimes because I would put a lot of our work and the quality of our work up against anything going on in town that adults are doing. So it is one of our challenges in terms of being taken seriously as a part of the art scene in Florida. Just because it's being done by and for young people, it's still real art.
Well, your productions are gorgeous. They're just beautiful. What are some of the highlights? What are some of your favorite productions that you've
Yeah.
put out?
That's
We all
so
wanna know that.
hard. I mean, it's like picking your favorite children. They're all
Sometimes
wonderful.
you can.
No, I can't do that.
In your obituary, what is it that you want them to say? And she produced and directed.
Well, I mean, it's for us. It's about creating that community, and it's about happy, healthy, confident people in whatever they do, and that's the same barometer for the production. So some show will be my favorite because it was a child that never spoke and was so shy and terrified of their own shadow, and then suddenly is performing and sang something perfectly.
That's a
Going to
success.
be,
But
a
you're starting
magic,
rejection
life-changing
very
moment.
early there. You have auditions. They have
And
to audition.
we talk a lot about that part of it.
Yes. What do you do
because,
about that?
I think people need to understand going in that if you're going to audition, not everybody is going to get a part on that. So
Easy
there are
enough
some
to say.
students that we don't think are really ready to have that experience. So we encourage them not to audition and to do one of the camp shows or class projects where everybody is going to be involved.
One thing I'm curious about, and I'd like to ask both of you, have you done children's theater?
I was just going to ask you.
I knew you were, so I was going to put you to it.
Have you ever?
I've never written for children's theater.
Oh.
I like it. To me, there's nothing better than a really wonderful production where you see, some wonderful young kids that are just starting to shine, that have that presence, and you say to yourself, where are they going to be in like 10 years?
That's
Because what I'm curious is, as an actor, an adult actor performing for children, particularly in your summer shows, is there a different acting style? Is there a broader, for the sake of something better, condescending acting style?
Oh, you just hit it.
Slap him silly. Slap him
that was a softball. That was a softball
Okay,
under the
well,
pitch, so you can
we're
hit
letting
it
that
way,
one roll
hit it way
right
out
by.
of, hit it way out of the ballpark.
Yeah, I think it totally depends on the piece, and it totally depends on the needs of the show. So there will be some pieces that you do for adults or for children that require a different skill set, that require you to paint with a broader brush, that require something stylistically that might be, a commedia piece or something where enhanced physicality is going to be an important part of storytelling. And then there's other pieces where something much smaller and internal and natural is part of what you need. So
Well, that leads me to ask you about, I don't know about Shakespeare, but like in the Heights, did you change any words?
did
Do you do it
word for
exactly the
word,
way it
that
is?
one. So that particular show, Did have some, we had a PG-13 rating, so on all of our communication with families going in, they knew that there would be some language. And
What about Abuela, who plays grandmothers?
Abuela.
I mean, I'm just saying that was my role all the time in school.
Right.
I was either the mother, the grandmother. I never got to be young.
Yeah, what I think I'm proudest of, among many things in our production of In the Heights, is that the parents and the people who played adults were so believably lovely and real and rooted, and it was not kids playing adults. And everybody walked out saying, I thought that was my parents and and that really was
Good
just
direction.
part of, well, thanks. But I mean, they really found what made sense for them with where they were in their life and connected to it in a way that was, we did a few minor tweaks. Like, for example, instead of walking down her steps, Abuela did one step at a time, 1 foot, then the other foot, foot, then.
Good
So there
idea.
were a few little things that we chose to do, but we didn't do any, a lot of crazy lines, and we didn't do all that putting on top of.
Right,
We just sort
right.
of let it be rooted with where they were, and she was marvelous.
And you're not doing, you say it's educational, but I know that other children's theaters in town, the shows have a message. They're original plays. You mentioned bullying. Do you have a bullying play?
Well,
that you
we have the third branch of our programming that I got distracted when I started your first question is our outreach programs. So our programming
Good.
branches are classes, plays, and outreach. And as part of our community outreach programs, we have since 1992 done an anti-bullying and conflict resolution program in partnership with schools. We do a lot of work with literacy and improving reading comprehension through drama. We work with other nonprofits, social organizations, cultural organizations, including groups that deal with families going through a terminal illness or health crisis. And we do a lot of self-expression workshops for them, and other youth groups as well coming in and working. So definitely as part of that. And again, as we already shared about, each play has so many things that you can connect to it in terms of discussion and stories and relationships and how people work that will connect all of those things.
Has anybody, we're all dying to know, have you had a honey boo-boo? Someone coming out of your show that's famous now?
Oh, I don't know that if I would take credit to a honey boo-boo.
God forbid.
But we certainly have people that are working in every facet of theater and every facet of arts. For us, no matter what they do, if it's what makes their heart sing, and if they have the comfort being in their own skin and the ability to look people in the eye and make a presentation and talk, that's going to be a success story for us, no matter if they're a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, a stay-at-home mom or dad, or whatever they choose to do. But in terms of, if you want a few name drops, we have the voice of Belle in Disney's Beauty and the
That's
Beast.
wonderful,
Was
yes.
There you go.
Paige
Small things
O'Hara
like
was an
that.
alum.
Oh, Paige O'Hara,
Stacy
yes.
Shearer, who produces with Danny DeVito, is an FLCT alum. Reed Ewing, who was a returning character on Modern Family, is a more recent alum. Ariana Grande, who just sang for President Obama and is a pop megastar, played our Cinderella back when we did that production a while back. And so there's people doing every facet: actors, directors,
Wow.
designers, musicians.
And what's so wonderful about a program like this as well is that not only do you have those alumni that go out to, have these wonderful careers as famous celebrities, you have people that just find their own voice, or people
Right.
that find, I love building sets, or
Right.
I'm now a carpenter, or someone who finds
Right.
I'm going to be a director.
Yes.
There's all these wonderful
Right.
And in the
aspects.
worst case scenario, you were building audiences for tomorrow. People who go,
Oh, very
I'm never going to be,
Right.
I'm never going to do this for a living. I may not even be in community theater,
Right.
but and not knocking community theater, but who now go, I have a taste for theater,
Right.
a love for theater, and I will spend the next 70, 80 years of my life going to theater.
Right.
So
I mean, it
you
is
deserve
about
credit for
the
that.
future of the art form, and in terms of patrons too, and in donors too.
Right.
We have a student leadership group, the Center Stage Youth Council, that they do fundraising events, and they work on, they have a board, and so they're learning all of those skills as well, and understand that you need to make money. So they do a lovely pitch too, and you're not going to say no
I was
to
going to say, this is essential,
young
I mean,
person.
for any theater.
For sure.
And Janet, just choosing to do what you're doing. I mean, I know I have your bio right here, and there's so many things you could do as well. I mean, direct, but you do everything now. And we thank you for that. Somebody has to do what you're doing. Not everybody can be a star on the show. And I know that your training and such and your background, you could very well have done that as well. And
our whole team really sees it as a great honor and privilege to get to create art every day, and especially to do it with young people.
Because we have 2 more minutes left. What's the hardest part about what you do? What is it that the civilians don't realize about what it is that you do?
Well, I think when they hear children, they somehow think it's going to be little kids in cardboard costumes holding up a sign with something falling down. And, I mean, that part is hard. So it's difficult to have people really take the art seriously and not underestimate or condescend or talk down to or think down about what young people can create. Because if you think about it, that's how we all learned everything about our world, is through arts. And everything in kindergarten, everything we know is based on drawing it or singing it or a song about it or something. So we're so deeply rooted in that, and it's so deeply rooted as children in that, and somehow we lose the respect that young people deserve to have in our society for just how much they do and know.
Excellent.
So.
well, everything you've said so far, you've given us an education.
Exactly.
Well, thanks. Come see it for yourself. Come see a show, and then you'll know how we do in the Heights and Starlight Express.
Well, I thank you for that, Janet.
And you could even write about it if you come.
What a
Yes,
good
ma'am.
idea.
Yes, ma'am.
Really, he does these interviews too. She'd be wonderful just to find out why
Clearly.
she's doing what she's doing. I'd like to ask her so much more, and we've run out of time, as we usually do. You know how I always encourage you to go to the theater? Well, that includes children's theater. Not only because your child is performing, but perhaps you're considering getting your child involved, and you should check out the many children's theaters in town. And of course, to go to the theater, it's nice to know what's going on. All you have to do is go to floridatheateronstage.com, and the world of theater comes alive. And we hope that you will continue to watch us every week right here at Spotlight on the Arts.